This is Homegrown, showcasing Alberta producers, artisans, and farming communities. Brought to you by Connect First Credit Union.
Well, Matt, thank you for having Ag for Life out to your farm. As we were chatting, we're on our summer farm road trip, so we're having a great time getting to meet Alberta producers and learn more about where our food, and in this case, a lot of people are going to enjoy our beer is coming from. So thanks for having us here.
You bet. Thanks for coming out.
So tell us a little bit about the farm. Tell us the history of the farm, when the farm started, who started the farm, where you were born and raised, all the good stuff.
Okay. So Hamel Farm started in 1929. The great-grandpa moved from Ireland with the kids. And yeah, so we've been right here in Penhold since then. So Dad took over the farm. Grandpa took over the farm with his brothers, and Dad eventually took over the farm, and he has a brother that helps out as well. And now Joe's active on the farm too, and we have the malt company.
Fantastic. So when it started, great-grandparents, what was the farm? Have we a big crop and livestock mixed farming? Or predominantly on the grain side? Or?
So I think it's always been pretty heavy on the grain side, but there was some livestock at some point. I know we had some hogs. I think we had some cattle. But grain's always been the anchor. Okay,
and today it's 100% grain.
Yep.
Yes. And so how many acres do you guys farm?
We farm 2,000 acres.
Okay, so you got a lot going on. Through the years, you obviously, way back when, you won't remember, you'll be a little boy for a lot of it, but as time changed, moving forward, sort of reduce the livestock side of things, moving more into the grain side. What are you growing today?
So today we're growing barley, wheat, canola, and we've added oats and peas to the rotation as well.
The main driver and kind of the exciting part that you are a part of here at the farm, and you came back to the farm, is the red Shed Malting. So tell us a little bit about that. It's a relatively new venture.
Yeah, you bet. So it's definitely the malt barley that gets me excited. So we have malt barley, and we do a little bit with other grains as well. But taking some of the raw grains, processing them into something that's useful to all the breweries and distilleries that are popping up.
So when did you guys start the malting? When did you start that part of the business?
I think we incorporated red Shed Malting in 2014 and started roasting and malting in 2015.
So I'm going to take you back then, and you were sitting around the kitchen table and you're talking. How did you decide that this is going to be something that you guys wanted to get involved with as part of the family business?
Yeah, great question. It's and we don't remember exactly when it started.
Maybe there were beer? You were drinking beer?
There was beer involved, yeah. So lots of Sunday suppers, and after, we'd sit around and we'd talk, and there was a couple things going on around the world that we were kind of taking note of. So when we were on vacation, we'd see places that had just great craft beer selections, and it hadn't quite hit in Alberta yet. But then we saw some of the laws change that made it easier to open up a brewery. And so we knew that there was going to be some growth because of that. Olds College had the Brewmasters program, and so they were training 30 brewmasters per year. And so we knew that there was going to be some talent coming down from that. And then there was some taxation changes too that made it helped some guys get started. So we saw a few things that made us think that there was going to be some growth in the craft beer market in Alberta and in Western Canada. And we had honestly talked about starting a brewery. And Joe was doing some home brewing. And eventually we kind of started thinking, how do we get Dad's barley into Joe's beer?
Okay.
And malting is obviously the step that's important there. And we looked at who was doing that. And we have two companies in Alberta, Canada Malt and Raw Malting, that are doing a great job making base malts. But we didn't have anyone that was doing specialty malts, and no one in Canada that had a roaster.
Okay, so tell me what specialty malts are.
Indeed. So in a typical craft beer, there might be 80% base malt and 20% specialty malts. So the specialty malts are going to give the flavor, the aroma, and the color. So they're kind of the spices that go in there.
Okay.
And so with our roaster, different time and temperature, and we can start making the malt taste like biscuits or crackers or Cheerios or coffee or chocolate. So just time and temperature, no other flavors, and we can really start getting creative with these beers.
So that's when you go to the liquor store or the beer store and you see such vast array of flavors. That's what that specialty malt is driving.
You bet. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So kind of our purpose is from the start has been make more beer styles possible out of only Canadian ingredients.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned Joe, and so I'm going to fill in. Joe is your brother.
Joe's my brother.
Joe's your brother. Okay. So now Joe is working and on the farm, obviously within the malting.
Yeah, so Joe's
Okay.
full-time in the malt house.
Okay.
His wife, Daylin, does all of our social media and the marketing. Should I go through the rest of the
Yes,
family?
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of do the sales and some of the strategy stuff. Mom does the books for both the malt house and the farm. And Dad's the farmer, so he's kind of the head at Hamble Farms. And then is helping out a ton in the malt house here as well.
That's fantastic. So
Yeah.
we talk about Alberta agriculture and farm families. This is a farm family hard at work.
Very much, yeah. It
Yeah.
absolutely takes all of us and all the skills that we had to get this business going.
Well, that is fantastic. So then talk a little bit about your customer. Who are you selling this product to?
So from the start, it was definitely some small breweries, and we've kind of been able to grow up with these breweries. So Blind Man's a great example. You know, they started and they had a 20-barrel system, and you know we were able to supply some of the specialty malts for some of their beers for that, and they've grown and they're one of the bigger craft breweries in the province now, and we're still able to supply them with some of the specialty malts for some of their core beers and some of their seasonal beers.
And is your product just sold in Alberta? Is it sold across Canada, around the world?
Most of our sales are happening in Alberta, but we are now doing some distribution into BC, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. We've done a beer with Left Field in Ontario, and we had sent a good amount of malt up to Whitehorse.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. So now, as part of that story, the quality of your product, the Alberta brand within that, so Alberta agriculture and the amazing quality that you can grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Barley is an Alberta success story. It's before I got into the malting, I thought barley could grow everywhere, but this really is the place to grow barley. The long summer days and the cool nights and the rainfall that we get, it's perfect for barley. It's perfect for getting malt grade consistently. So it's the right product from the right place, and we like to kind of be the connector in that story too. So we help the breweries and the distilleries put a face to the ingredients that they're using.
Absolutely, that connection of, again, farm to glass. And the story, we do a lot of work obviously at Egg for Life where we're talking about, food and that story and when you sit down and enjoy a glass of beer as well, there's a huge story behind that. So Dad's on the farm and he's working out in the fields. And now tell us about what happens in the plant or in the brew house. No, that's not right. Malt house.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's the malt house.
Yeah.
There's sort of stages that happen within that you were telling us about. How does that work? What are the 3 phases that you told us about?
Yep. So after the grains combine and put in the bin, it'll go and get cleaned, and then we'll bring it into the malt house and put it through the malting process. So the malting process is steeping, which is increasing the moisture, and germination, which is kind of some of the chemical reactions to get some of the attributes that we want in the malt, and then kilning, which is stopping that whole process and drying it down so that it's a shelf-stable product.
I guess I'm putting it all together as we're, from the field to the glass, and so much of the specialization within the craft brewery and the craft brewer market, I think, is that selective taste. So how have you guys managed in your process to come up with the distinctiveness between, you'd mentioned the chocolate and the biscuits and that's all done through roasting, I think you mentioned.
Yeah, so lots of the more out there flavors are definitely coming from the roaster.
Okay.
And so there's beer styles, beer recipes that go back long before we existed. And so we have mimicked some of those malts in a way. are made a product that could substitute in a recipe for that.
Okay.
We've gone rogue as well. We've come up with some of our own things to try to get some exciting products out there. I don't know if we can catch it in the background, but the elevator Doppelbock from Hell's Basement, it won an award for best Doppelbock in Canada, and that was it includes one of the malts that we got a little bit crazy with our equipment on.
Yeah.
So I was pretty excited to see that one do well.
Absolutely.
And then on the base malts, we do try to differentiate ourselves a little bit there as well. Lots of the malting companies, they'll have base malts that are a blend of different varieties of barley.
Okay.
Some varieties might have the right enzymes, and some might have a different attribute, and then they can kind of blend them to get the different specs for their different customers. With our base malts, we keep them variety specific. So we let some of the flavors and attributes from that variety of barley come through in the finished product.
Okay. Yeah, it's remarkable. As you took us on a bit of a tour, the science and the technique behind it is super impressive, for one. So the next time you have a glass of beer, it's like, wow, this is an art. So thank you for that. And so where do you see, where are you going with this? Are you growing in size? Are you looking at different areas to expand the business?
Yeah, so the next goal is to increase our production capacity. And then just keep being innovative with some of the products as well. So we're going to start playing around with some of the different grains. In kind of the whiskey world, I think rye might be coming around for its turn. American bourbons have been popular lately, and single malts have, there's a world shortage on that. And I think Canadian rye is the next thing, so we want to try to dabble into that.
Excellent, good. Is there anything else that you want us to know as consumers, as Albertans? I mean, hardworking family, very entrepreneurial, and I think that's an important consideration. Is there kind of a key message that you tell when you're telling your story?
Anytime anyone gives me a platform, especially if farmers are going to be in the audience, I try to remind farmers that there's 3 to 7 times more malt goes into making a craft beer than some of the more traditional beers. And so if you're drinking craft beer, you're helping yourself.
There you go.